All right, so national carrier Air India, Prime Minister Modi, in fact, has just landed there at Bishkek. First visuals on your screen. Prime Minister Modi at the SCO summit today. Prime Minister Modi is going to, in fact, attend this two-day SCO summit in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan. And India, most importantly, is looking at those two important bilaterals with Russia and China on the sidelines of the SCO summit. Remember, in 2017, India assumed full membership of this important one of the important groupings globally, and this is going to be most important global outreach programs of the Prime Minister Modi after assuming office for the second consecutive term. And also, what we need to also highlight the fact that Prime Minister Modi is also not going to have any sort of bilateral or structured or scheduled meeting with his Pakistani counterpart Imran Khan. And these bilaterals with China, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, as well as Russia will take place when Prime Minister Modi will be attending the Council of Meetings of Heads of State of the SCO Summit. 2 days are important, June 13th and 14th. There's also going to be a meeting with the host nation, Kyrgyzstan. Remember, this time around, Kyrgyzstan is hosting SCO Summit. Prime Minister Modi will not have any bilaterals with Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, not even a pull aside as well. This is important to note here because it's going to be for the first time Imran Khan, the Pakistan Prime Minister, and Prime Minister Modi are going to come face to face after months and months of tensions post February 14 Pulwama terror attack on the CRPF convoy, in which at least India lost 40 of its brave hearts. And the responsibility of those terror attacks was taken by Jaish-e-Mohammed. In fact, if we could just try and get Bishkek also on phone line as we stay with these first visuals of national carrier Air India, live visuals from Bishkek, where Prime Minister Modi has finally landed. And we have also Niranjan joining us live from newsroom to tell us more about how India's positioning continues to get consolidated in this SCO summit. But then overall, a 360-degree view, Niranjan, over to you. What's India really going to get on the table, on agenda? Counter-terrorism measures, those bilaterals that are very important that India is going to sign with China and Russia. And at the same time, Pakistan continues to get isolated at the SCO summit as well.
So that's correct. The Prime Minister has just landed. He has, looking at his engagements today as we wait for Abhishek, who's live in Bishkek, to just join us in a few seconds from now. Quickly telling our viewers, the Prime Minister has landed now. And after this, in about 2 hours from now, there is a bilateral lined up with Xi Jinping, the Chinese Premier. After which there is a bilateral also lined up with Vladimir Putin, the Russian President. That's roughly at about 5 p.m. India time. Followed by the SCO dinner, which is slated as of now around 6 p.m. India time, between 6 and 7 p.m. India time. And the final bilateral or his final diplomatic engagement for today will be with Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan. That's roughly around 9 p.m. India time. So these are the different engagements of the Prime Minister, who has just landed. Air India One has just landed in Bishkek. The Prime Minister will now, of course, begin his engagements in less than 60 minutes from now. Now, these are the engagements that he has lined up for today. But I think the big talking point will be around Imran Khan and the Prime Minister, the Pakistani Prime Minister, and India's Prime Minister coming face to face for the first time after Modi returned to power. Let me go back to Abhishek. Abhishek is joining us live. Abhishek, take us through the first engagements of the Prime Minister, which we believe will begin in less than 1 hour from now.
Well, yes, Niranjan, the first engagement, in fact, is a big one, and that is Niranjan, are you getting me?
Yes,
the first
Abhishek,
engagement of Prime Minister. Yes, so the first engagement is, in fact, the movie.
Continue speaking, Abhishek. Speak over these pictures.
China's. In that context, for Mr. Modi to have his first bilateral engagement with President Xi Jinping itself is important. Also, remember, this is the first time the two leaders would be meeting, A, after Prime Minister Modi came back to power, and B, after China agreed to let Maulana Masood Azhar be declared a global terrorist, because for almost a decade it was China that was obstructing that from happening, despite a global consensus that should be allowed to happen. So there would hopefully be certain tailwinds going in terms of India-China bilateral relationship in the backdrop of that decision. So we are hoping that something concrete comes out from the bilateral that takes place between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. In fact, we are told by our by sources in the government that Prime Minister would make a formal invite to President Xi Jinping for that informal summit that has to happen on the Indian side now. Last year, remember, there was an informal summit between India and China, or between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in Wuhan. And now it's turn of India to host one, and Prime Minister is going to make a formal invite to President Xi about that informal summit to be held later in the year. Apart from that, the whole gamut of relationship in the backdrop of the trade war that is going on between United States and China, a bit of brunt of which India is facing in terms of raised tariffs from the United States. But what's important, Niranjan, is that India is participating for the second time as full member of SCO. We became a full member in 2017 along with Pakistan. And this is just to underscore the importance of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is a body which is located in Central Asia, or actually concerned about Central Asia, and yet even the United States has applied to be a member. They want to become an observer. Their application is pending since 2005. And imagine that Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president, he has gone on record saying that if Turkey is made the member of SCO, they would happily relinquish the membership of NATO, that is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So that really underscores how important this organization is, or with what significance this organization is seen in this neighborhood of Central Asia. And in that backdrop, for India to have become full member, that's by itself significant and signifies India's relevance and importance in this region. India has had a historical connect with Central Asia from the time of Silk Route, and now for India to be a full player in SCO shows that we can influence the regional grouping, which is biggest of its kind regional grouping in the world after the United Nations, covering 42% of global population, 22% of landmass, and 20% of global GDP, both in terms of India's energy needs, energy security, in terms of connectivity, and in terms of course, the larger strategic objective of making the region free from any kind of extremism and fundamentalism, and to make sure that terrorism does not find more sanctuaries. And that's in fact a commonality of interests that brings India and the SCO together. SCO essentially started as a security grouping, and now it has, of course, become a full-fledged security, energy, and development economic growth organization. But the basic agenda of security remains. And in that context, for India to participate and be able to influence the SCO agenda would be very significant as Prime Minister Modi arrives to participate in the SCO Summit, 19th edition of the SCO Summit.